What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm here to break down and react to the Chiefs' 31-28 loss to the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving to fall to 6-6 on the season. All that and more right after this. Ladies and gentlemen of the Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to another post-game breakdown here on the Show Me Football YouTube channel. Before we get into things, I do kindly want to ask you all to please like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you go ahead and hit that notification bell as well for future Chiefs content on this channel. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you all out there. Hopefully the holiday has been as good as you can manage despite the loss for the Kansas City Chiefs falling to 6-6 on the season to the Dallas Cowboys at Jerry World. Guys, the Cowboys are supposed to lose on Thanksgiving. That's how it's supposed to go. That's how it's always been. And yet the Kansas City Chiefs were the ones that lost in this game, in a gotta-have-it game, because pretty much every game has got to have it at this point in the season. But they lost. They lost again. They're 6-6. We are 12, 13 weeks into the season at this point. They're a bad football team. I said it earlier on, and people said, what are you talking about, Josh? They're not a bad football team. They just got some things to work out. No, at some point, you are a bad football team, and the things have not gotten fixed, and they won't get fixed because the reality is now staring you in the face that the Kansas City Chiefs will most likely miss the playoffs this year. They have to go undefeated for the rest of the season if they want to make it. And even if they do go undefeated, I mean, pretty much all the teams ahead of them in the standings currently have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Kansas City Chiefs. And a team with 15 at the helm likely not making it is an organizational failure. It is a complete failure on everyone involved that this team with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones at the helm will not make the postseason in all likelihood. And man, it's just, I never thought we'd get to this point. Like, I never actually thought we'd get to this point. And I bitched and moaned about this team. I've had my gripes with this team for years, for the longest time. But I never truly felt like, they were going to let go of the rope the way they have this year. But it's happening, man. It's happening. I don't think this team is going to make the postseason. And it's funny because after the 2023 season, when the Kansas City Chiefs looked like they weren't going to be able to beat anybody with a pulse, the offense was god-awful, the wide receiver room was the worst in the league. That team was, 6-5 or 6-4 at one point in the season, something like that. Like, that team, I ended up pushing the panic button, and I said, they might make the playoffs, but they're not going anywhere. At least that team, I never thought they'd miss the playoffs, though. But the point that I was going to make is after that season, because they ended up going on to win the Super Bowl, I was like, well, you know what? I'm not going to do the regular season freak out thing anymore. I'm not going to do the thing where I bury this team halfway through the season because they look a little lazy. They look a little sloppy. Like, that was fun to do in the past, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm going to reserve judgment until we see everything through. But I'm taking that all back now. I'm taking it all back with this team because it's just broken. The entire organization is broken from top to bottom. The holes on this team have become too glaring for 15 to fix. Patrick Mahomes, for years, this team has relied on Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, John Dorsey draft picks to carry this team, to carry this operation. And now that those guys, Mahomes, Kelce, Jones are not collectively playing at the level that they used to, they are no longer bailing this team out. The cracks are showing a little bit more because you don't have Mahomes to clean everything up. You don't have Kelsey and Jones to clean everything up because those guys are getting older. They're slowing down. They need help. And the Chiefs, this front office, this organization has not gotten them to help to allow them to continue competing at the level that they do. And I already know that I'm going to get so many comments on this video, most likely, from people saying, you're so ungrateful. This team has been to however many Super Bowls in the last 5 years. Look at the success. I don't care. This team with Patrick Mahomes should never, ever, ever be missing the playoffs. And if they do, someone needs to lose their job. You cannot come back out the following year and do the same thing. And we're going to talk about that for sure. And I'll talk about this game. I'll talk about specifics from this game. And I'll do a little bit of that now. But you guys know that after most of the losses this season, I've done a lot more big picture stuff than talking about the actual game. And again, at this point, it's just the same stuff over and over and over again. It's the same problems with this team. Defense can't stop a nosebleed. Pass rush can't get after Dak Prescott. They can't get after the quarterback. Spags was just spamming the blitz in this game, but even the blitz wasn't getting home. And, that's what happens when you refuse to embrace a modern pass rush, when you overpay for George Karlaftis. And I'll say it again. When George Karlaftis signed that deal, we all knew it was an overpay. It was an overpay the second that it was signed, but you had people jumping out to defend it saying that contract's going to look good in a few years. And I'm like, if that's the first thing we're saying about it, then maybe the guy just shouldn't have gotten the contract. Man, he's invisible. He's just a guy, and the Chiefs paid him. I compared it to the Nick Bonito extension that the Denver Broncos gave Nick Bonito. Nick Bonito, George Karlaftis, same draft class, obviously. And they both got extended this past offseason. Nick Bonito is a legit defensive player of the year candidate. He is a number one pass rusher. He is a monster. George Karlaftis will never be Nick Bonito, and he got paid basically the same contract that Nick Bonito got. It's organizational failure. It's mishap after mishap after mishap by Brett Veach that has finally caught up to this team, drafting busts like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, drafting decent to good players, like George Karlaftis, and then way overpaying them like they're elite players. That's how we end up in this spot. So that was a lot of the problem today, was the pass rush. And then Shamari Connor can't cover a nosebleed, but Spags has him 40 yards down the field covering CeeDee Lamb. What do you expect? What do you expect, man, when you roll that stuff out over and over again? What happened to Noel Williams? What happened to the Noel Williams snaps? Again, Spags is just unnecessarily toying with the rotations. And again, he just has an affinity for guys that simply can't get it done. Guys like Shamari Connor and Nick Bolton, who are niche players that do have a spot on this team, but should not be playing nearly as big of a role as they are. George Karlaftis as well. But they get treated like they're franchise cornerstones when they're just simply not all that great. They're just not. Offensively, they just lack creativity. And it's like, you're looking at the end of the half, and the Chiefs probably need to score there if they hope to win this game. Being down to the Cowboys at halftime on the road, knowing what their offense was capable of, especially after watching that first half, it's like it felt like the Chiefs needed to score. But we know that the Chiefs always defer a kickoff because they want that chance to double dip. So, like I said, they wanted to score before the end of the half and probably score coming out of the half. They do neither. And it was so predictable that was going to happen. It's just everything looks so hard for them on offense. Everything looks so hard. It just feels like the Mahomes do whatever offense. That's what I call it. It's the Patrick Mahomes do whatever offense. Patrick Mahomes is great going off script, but he needs some sort of structure. He needs a guy that he knows is always going to be open on that first read that he makes, and he just doesn't have that. Rashee Rice is great, but he doesn't really beat man coverage consistently. Travis Kelce, like I was saying earlier, he's just at an age where he's not that guy anymore. He's not taking over the game consistently. Obviously, he's still a helpful player, and it's a shame that the Chiefs are wasting what has actually been a pretty good season for him at 36 years old. And, people said for years, the Chiefs need to figure out left tackle. They need to get better wide receivers. They got the left tackle. They got better wide receivers, and the offense still sucks. So what's the next thing that we point to? Coaching, right? Coaching. Everything, all the problems, and don't get me started on the penalties too. I mean, this team's just undisciplined. This has been one of the worst years for the Kansas City Chiefs with Andy Reid at the helm when it comes to penalties. They are just horrendously undisciplined. And all that goes back to coaching. And people will say, the personnel, defensively, the personnel, they don't have the horses. Well, guess what? Steve Spagnuolo plays a huge part in picking out the personnel. Andy Reid plays a huge part in picking out the personnel. And I have my gripes with Veach, don't get me wrong. But sometimes I feel like I do need to cut Veach a little bit more slack because he's just doing the shopping while Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo hand him the shopping list. And when that happens, you have a team that's just filled with guys that would not be playing for any other NFL team because Andy and Spags love comfortability and familiarity in the guys that they bring in. They would rather trade a draft pick for Derek Nottie and Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be on this team than go out and making an upgrade like signing, Jadeveon Clowney, who was signed in the middle of the season by the Cowboys for nothing. And man, didn't that guy look good today? Didn't he look good? Could the Kansas City Chiefs not use a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, who I've been asking for this team to sign every single year? I felt like they didn't have enough at the edge position. No, instead their answer is to bring back Charles Omenihu, who didn't really look very good at the end of last year. It's just the same thing over and over again. And all of it goes back to coaching. It's this coaching staff. This coaching staff is what's holding this team back. And there's something that people don't want to talk about. You guys are so close to the conclusion, to the correct conclusion, but you just don't want to say it. And I'll tell you what it is. But before I break that down, I do want to show you all a message from our partners on this channel. So let's go ahead and check that out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys have not heard of W Energy, then you are absolutely missing out right now, as W Energy has taken the energy drink market by storm with their new unique flavors and jitterless energy blend. W Energy is a powered energy drink that replaces other inferior caffeine beverages. It contains 0 harmful chemicals, 0 fillers, 0 artificial colors or dyes, and no proprietary blends. The star of the show is their coffee fruit extract, which helps you focus without the jitter or crash of other energy drinks out in the market. If you're like me, I've relied on caffeine to get me going about my day in the past, but thanks to W Energy, I now have a new, healthier alternative. And not only that, but it tastes absolutely amazing. They just sent me their new Japanese yuzu flavor, and it's got that sweet citrus fruit taste. It's one of the better tasting energy drinks I've ever had. W Energy is what's been keeping me powered lately, especially throughout this rough stretch for the Kansas City Chiefs. But best of all, guys, you can get an additional 10% off your W order using my promo code down in the description. Go ahead, click that link, go get your W order, and then put in the promo code SHOWMEFB for an additional 10% off. W is absolutely amazing. I love what they've been sending me so far. And best of all, guys, you can go and take advantage of that discount. So go get your W. Go check them out. They're going to be partnered with me all football season long. Ditch the caffeine. Go W. You guys know the drill. Definitely go take advantage of that sale down in the description below. But let's get back to the video topic. So everything goes back to coaching, as I said before the ad break. And everyone would agree with that, I think, at this point. It's hard to disagree, hard not to agree. But yet you can't say it bluntly that this team needs to make a change. If I suggest that Andy Reid should go or that Steve Spagnuolo should go, everyone says, how dare you say that? How dare you suggest that Andy Reid needs to go, that Steve Spagnuolo needs to go, that heads need to roll? But then we talk about all these problems and they go back to coaching. So what is the justification for these people to remain employed? And now I'm not necessarily calling for anyone's job. And I'm not saying that the answer to everything is just to fire Andy Reid. And obviously, he's built up a lot of goodwill, and sometimes down years do happen, but it's still inexcusable to completely miss the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes on your football team. It just cannot happen. So why are we not allowed to say Andy Reid's a problem, Steve Spagnuolo's a problem, and maybe if you got like all these things that we want changed, if we want the Chiefs to bring in better personnel on the defensive side of the football, if we want the Chiefs to get better, fresh ideas on the offensive side of the football and to become innovative again, if we want to make those changes cannot be made without swapping out people on the coaching staff. So it's not making any sense how people freak out when I say, oh, you know what? The Chiefs might want to mutually part ways with Andy Reid. I'm not saying that the answer to everything is to fire Andy Reid, but at this point, am I shedding a tear if he moves on? Not really. I just think there needs to be new blood, new voices in this coaching staff. Same thing with the defensive side of the football. I'm honestly out on Steve Spagnuolo. I just think his philosophy is outdated. His scheme is outdated. He puts way too much stock into knowing the defense instead of just getting better players. You know, bringing back the same old washed veterans over and over again. Mike Edwards was out there today after Brian Cook got hurt, and it's like Mike Edwards was cut by the Buffalo Bills last year. Like he's not good anymore. He can't move. Chamari Connor, like, no, he's not starting for any other team in the NFL. You refuse to bring in good pass rushers. So if we want to see these necessary changes, a shakeup has to happen. There's too much hubris. There's a dynasty hubris with this football team. And Brett Veach cannot go without being held accountable as well. I mean, he just hasn't made the necessary moves. He bulked at giving up a third-round pick for Breece Hall at the deadline. He wanted to hold on to the third-round pick, even though his history of third-round picks isn't very good. And the odds would tell you that having Breece Hall in this offense is worth way more than any of the possibilities that Brett Veach could have with that third-round draft pick. You know, he had opportunities to fix this. He could have gotten better depth on the defensive line. He decided to run it back and trade a draft pick for Derek Nottie. It's just up and down the organization, man. Things need to change. Today was not Mahomes' fault. I mean, he had a fantastic game. He did everything he could. But the people around him have failed him. This organization has failed him. This season isn't his fault. It's an indictment on Brett Veach, Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, this organization. And I would love to say, hey, maybe them missing the playoffs is a good thing. Maybe it will cause some necessary change. Maybe it will be a wake-up call. I would love to think that. But honestly, guys, I don't know if I trust them to change anything. I honestly think they would mostly run it back and say, hey, it was just a down season, but we believe in our guys. We just got to clean a few things up. I don't know if anything would change. I don't think Clark Hunt would have the guts to make a change. He loves Andy Reid. Andy Reid has the most power within this organization. What he says goes. They're not firing Brett Veach. We know how loyal Andy is to his guys. They're not firing Steve Spagnuolo either. There is a hubris with this team that I just think runs so deep. I don't know if we're going to see the change that's needed. And that's really disturbing to me because, man, this has been going on for years. Just the roster construction, the way they go about things, it's always been flawed. The process has always been flawed, in my opinion. But for the longest time, it's been covered up by Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, the John Dorsey draft picks. Kareem Hunt has bailed this team out a ton. He's a John Dorsey draft pick. Like, those are the guys consistently bailing this team out. Those aren't Brett Veach draft picks. Those are John Dorsey draft picks still, all these years later, doing all the heavy lifting. And now that those guys aren't all at the highest level anymore, you're seeing what this team looks like. There's now more magnification on the rest of the roster, and it's just not good enough. Other teams are better. This is a bad football team. So that's that. As things stand, I don't know if the Kansas City Chiefs will make the playoffs. I wouldn't put money down on it. They just lost to the Dallas Cowboys on Thanksgiving. That shouldn't be happening. You would love to say, hey, the rest of their schedule lightens up. Well, it lightens up based on what? Because we don't think these other teams are very good. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs aren't very good. They could easily lose to the Texans in their next game. They still play the Broncos. The Chargers, they should win, but the Chiefs have lost a lot of games that they should have won this year. So, yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there, though. I definitely want to hear from you guys down in the comments below what your thoughts are on the Chiefs' Week 13 loss to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Hopefully, you guys can still have a decent rest of the holiday, but that's where I'm going to stop. So all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com for more. Follow the X at showmefb. That's all I got for this one. I'll see you all in the next one. And as always, go Chiefs.